This video, I'm going to show I painted my Tcho Tchos from Cthulhu, Death May Die. Alright, here are the skin tones I used. You don't have to use these. This is what I had. So, the base coat, I'm going to put through an airbrush and I'll show you, was Bugman's Glow. And then from 45 degrees, I hit it with Army Painter Barbarian Flesh. Then I mixed a 50-50 Barbarian Flesh and basic skin tone from Vallejo. Shot that from above. And then grabbed a brush and did some highlights with the basic skin tone. Then some highlights with basic skin tone and pale flesh. And then finally a very, very tiny extreme highlight with pale flesh before finishing the whole thing off by hitting it with Reichland Flesh Shade. So forgive the camera and the light. I'm doing this in my basement with a cell phone. But I primed the model's warm brown primer, and then I did a base coat of Bugman's Glow. And with the airbrush and the brush, I did everything multiple coats. So I think this was probably 2 or 3 coats of the Bugman's Glow. And I just did the whole thing all over the model. Alright, next I took the Army Painter and I shot it through at about a 45-degree angle so the Bugman's Glow would stay in the recesses. On my test model, I did a couple extra layers of this and I think I like that better. So I would advise you, if you're going to do this, do more layers than what I did. And then I mixed the Barbarian Flesh and the skin tone, and I shot that from 90 degrees from the top, so it just hit the top of the model. Alright, grabbed a brush up at my paint desk. I took the basic skin tone and I'm just highlighting all of the area from the top, and I'm doing kind of defining the larger muscle areas and anything that you would see just as you're kind of looking down at the model to bring the highlights up higher on the individual raised details. I also did this on the face, like the lips, the tips of the nose, top of the ears, the eyebrows, the cheekbone. I did spend a lot more time on the face because the face is where I'm going to do most of the highlighting here, but I also wanted to hit the shoulders and all these kind of defined muscles and the spine sticking out and all that kind of stuff. Alright, after a couple of layers of that, I went and mixed in some of the pale flesh into the basic skin tone, and I was just dotting a few more extreme highlights on the face, covering a smaller area on the chin and on the tip of the nose and the highest point on the eye ridges and on the cheekbones, and a slightly smaller area on the top of the head. Alright, and finally I just took some straight pale flesh and did an even smaller area up on the top of the head. And I did do this in 2 layers. Alright, now to kind of bring the warmth back up and to tie all of these different highlights and layers together, I grabbed some Reichland Flesh Shade and I'm just going to do over the entire miniature like this. Just made sure that all the pooling was down in the recesses, but that it didn't pool too excessively, but I wanted to make sure there was a nice dark line in all of the recesses, so I went over each section by section and kind of concentrated on getting the brush down in and underneath like all the muscles and the fat layers and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of good details on the back and the shoulders that I wanted to make sure that the wash went down in, and this is where I did the most highlighting, so this is where the most contrast will be, because this will be the part of the mini that you're most likely to see if you're actually playing the game, looking down at it from above. Here's what they all look like, all doused with wash. So I'm going to let this dry, and then I'm going to do black on the bases, and then we'll see what it looks like. And here we go. When they're all dry and based, here's what they kind of look like. I'm really happy with how these guys came out. Again, I think the test model is actually my favorite. I should have done some more layers of the mid-tone, the Army Painter Barbarian Flesh at the 45 degrees. But the rest of them, I think they still came out fine. I think for models that have a lot of flesh, this is how I'll end up doing it, using the airbrush and doing almost a zenithal approach, but with all skin tones. I like how the transitions and everything came out. Really happy with it. Looking forward to getting these guys on the table. I'm going to hit them with a varnish just to protect it all. But I think these guys are done, and I'm happy, and I'm excited to start working my way through Cthulhu Death May Die Season 2.